Coming up on today's Locked On Hawkeyes Podcast, Trent, Condon, LeShun, Daniels, we break down another disappointing offensive effort as Iowa falls 9-6 to Illinois. The Hawkeyes sitting at 3-3 as they go into the bye week. We'll talk about what bye weeks mean inside the Iowa program with LeShun and a whole lot more, all coming up on today's Locked On Hawkeyes Podcast.
Our Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back once again to the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I'm Trent Condon. LeShun Daniels, former Hawkeye running back, joining me here today as we look back at another Iowa loss, this one at the hands of Illinois. Another long winning streak comes to an end in a rivalry game, this time at the hands of the Illini. 9-6 the final in that one. We're always available for you each and every day on the Locked On Hawkeyes Podcast Network. You can find us wherever you get podcasts. You can also see us on YouTube. Just search Locked On Hawkeyes, and when you're there, hit that subscribe button. Well, LeShun, a disappointing performance once again from the offense. The defense does what they need to. Force 3 turnovers, hold Illinois out of the end zone in 2, just 9 points, but ultimately can't get it done. It was a frustrating night of football. And then, of course, I had to turn it around and watch my Bears again, though that looked a little bit better, at least on Sunday. I know you were watching your brother play with the Steelers. That one didn't go very well. Very frustrating weekend, I think, for a lot of people out there. Hey, if you're a Chiefs fan, somebody like that, at least you got Monday Night Football to look forward to or some entertaining football. Vikings fans, a lot of those I know in our listening audience. I'm from North Iowa, tons of Vikings fans around. Somehow that garbage team is 4-1, but we're here to talk about Hawkeyes and a frustrating night that it was.
Yeah, that was a rough game of football to watch for the Hawks. I mean, like every drive, I felt like it was just frustration after frustration every time you step on the field offensively, like kind of knowing what the defense and special teams was doing all game. So yeah, it was not a fun Saturday night of Iowa football, that's for sure.
So a couple of things I want to go here, and it's something that has bothered me as somebody that I guess I'm a football novice. Look, I played low-level football. You know, I was not a player, certainly of your stature, anything like that. I watch tons of football, but I don't know the game. I don't know the X's and O's. I don't know breaking down and schematically at the same kind of level. And I watch the way now in year number 6 of Brian Ferentz coordinating this offense, and it just doesn't feel like there's any kind of rhyme or reason to it. It feels like just play Madden. You're just pushing buttons. You're just trying things to try them. And I don't know what they're trying to do. You go back to I was moving the football for the first time all game long on the ground, moving it up there. Caleb had a good run. We saw before that, LeShun, he had a good run. They're moving the football. And then he set up on second down and 7, a tight end screen, and it's completely dead. Illinois is a fast defense. Yeah, that play. Of course, the reverse play or the end around play wasn't even a reverse that they get it to Reganian, and he gets hit for a loss, and they knock him back, and then they miss the field goal at the end of the first half. They're just so many of those plays. It just, I'm left looking at it and saying, what are they trying to do? Can you see when you're watching this team that there is a plan, that there is something? I know they're trying to do something. That's not what I'm saying, but it just doesn't feel like this is a strength. Brian coming to a game plan and saying, these are our best plays. This is what we're going to do. It just at times feels like throwing a bunch of crap at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah. Honestly, I have no. I'm kind of there. Like I feel like there is no kind of sense of like direction when it comes to like outside. You get past like our scripted kind of like first 10, 15 plays, right? It's like seems like kind of after that, right? There really is no really rhyme or reason for like different calls. Like I feel like at times like he's obviously trying to catch like the defense off guard and different things like that. But I just feel like he's really like they're just outsmarting themselves, right? Like again, like the end around reverse thing in the 2-minute drill. Obviously, that play call was crazy. Like honestly, I had no idea what was going on there. And obviously, like no offense to Nico, but like if I'm gonna run end around reverse, like he's probably not going to be the first person that I would use for that play. Mm-hmm. And then just in general, right? When things are going well, right? And we're hitting on some successes on some plays, and we're just kind of knocking those out, and we're moving the chains. It feels like we get to a point where it's like, okay, now let's try to take this kill shot, right? Kind of like right here, and see if we can catch the defense off guard, right? And I totally understand like those plays, right? Like there are times in the game where you do have to do those things, right? But when you have Iowa's offense and we have such a low margin of error, right? Like when we have those plays, like it can be frustrating because now we lose a bunch of yards, and now either take us out of field goal range, we're behind the chains, and all these different things, and now we're in a position where we're going to possibly be punting, right? Because again, I watch a lot of football, and just watching the games on Sunday, right? I was watching the Pittsburgh Bills game, and you watch offense like the Bills, right? The best offense in the NFL, and they have times where they make a mistake, right? Like Josh Allen threw an interception on a drive there in like the 15-yard line, right? And obviously that's a play, right? You don't want to have those type of plays when you're in a scoring opportunity, but when you have offense that can move the ball and move the change, right? Doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because in the next drive, right, they're able to go and strike on a 50-yard touchdown play, right? And Iowa, because our margin of error is so small, right? When we try to do different things and try to catch the defense off guard, at times when we try to outsmart ourselves, it ends up biting us in the butt more times than not.
So we saw that glimpse of some positive momentum out of the running game. It's still not good, but you go through. Offensive line has been a big time struggle. They started five sophomores, excuse me, on Saturday, and it really showed up. This is a good Illinois defense. Not to take anything away from the Illini, that team is good defensively. They got speed. They got dudes up front. They really made it difficult, but again, it still comes back to quarterback. And this is the part that I just struggle with. And you, as a former player, when you're watching a quarterback struggling, when you see a guy that just is not getting the job done, you have a backup that's won football games for you before, a guy that adds an element with the running that we can see from Padilla, a guy that can at least move around a little bit and make some plays outside of the pocket. What does that do for a team? I know we heard Jack Campbell, I think it was after the Iowa State game, come out and talk positively. We know that Spencer Petras is a light guy in the locker room, and that everybody has his back. And that's kind of what Iowa football is about, is having each other's back. But just as a player, when you're seeing something like that, what does that do? What does that do to the mentality of a group, knowing, hey, he's not alone. It's not just about Petras, but quarterback, the most important position in sports, and the coaching staff still not willing to even try something different?
You know, again, like that's a very, very, interesting question, just because, right, like it's a guy in that position, obviously, one of the most important positions in all sports, right? The quarterback position. Typically the guy that's there, right? He has earned his right? I mean, he's done it in some way, shape, or form, right? He's earned his right to be there, right? And he's, being your leader on your football team, right? And obviously he's a well likable guy. Everyone around the locker room and around the building, I speak very, very highly of him. But it obviously can be, frustrating, obviously, as a player, right? Because we all know it's obviously not all on Spencer, right? It's clearly shown that week in, week out, right? It's not all on Spencer, right? But right now, where the offense is, right, like it definitely needs like a jolt, right? It needs some type of spark or something, right, to get it going, right? And unfortunately, Spencer hasn't been able to do that, right? He has been able to provide flash plays really in quite a long time, right? I mean, I can't truly remember, right, him obviously, like us or offense in general, right, truly hitting like a deep shot or a big play, right, where it just completely like flips the momentum of the game, right, and gives offense some juice, right? It just hasn't happened. And when you are the quarterback, right, you're going to be getting all that type of negativity and all that stuff towards you, just because you're in that position. So it can be frustrating, for everyone around, because obviously you want to see Spencer do well, you want to see him play well, and things like that. But when it's just not happening, and what you're doing in the practice field isn't translating to Saturdays on game day, it can be very, very frustrating for everyone involved. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now. But again, it's obviously not on Spencer. The offensive line has been, very, 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 very poor. And I don't know if, making a change at the quarterback position is going to make it that much better. But again, it's something that you might still want to explore, right? So.
Well, it's a bye week here this week, and because it's a bye, there's going to be maybe some potential changes or wrinkles. We're going to talk to LeShun a little bit about that. What a bye week is like for a Hawkeye player. What's it like going through these bye weeks and what the team works to accomplish. We'll do that as we continue here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation, it's hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, dines out. That's all of us. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. I've used it a couple of different times now. Getting gas is something that we all use if you have a vehicle. Something that is big. Restaurants out there. Got a couple that popped out here in West Des Moines. I got to try those and the Upside app. Very easy to use. Just download the free Upside app. Use my promo code LOCKED and you'll get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Claim an offer, whatever you're buying on Upside, check in at the business, and then you just pay as usual with your credit or debit card, and then you get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn up to 3 times as much cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app right now and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. All right, Trent Condon and LeShun Daniels back with you here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. And LeShun, wanted to talk to you a little bit about a bye week. Obviously, we look forward to the Ohio State game up next on the schedule. I was going to be a decided underdog in the game. The summer lines that were out, games of the year that were put up by my buddy Chris Sanders out of the South Point. He had the Buckeyes favored by 21. I think that thing's going to be closer maybe to 4 touchdowns as opposed to the 3 that it was during this offseason. But it's a bye week. So what does that mean inside the football complex? What are you guys working to do? What happens during the bye week? Not only getting guys healthy, which is a huge part of it, but what else is done inside the walls of Fort Kinnick?
Yeah. So, for starters, obviously, right, it's big on getting, really your healthy. Well, mainly your one deep, right? Like it's really focused on trying to get, those starters. They got people that play a bunch of snaps on offense and defense. It's really time for those guys to really get some true rest and recovery, right? So, those guys, typically we'll have we won't practice in pads. We'll have like light days, just kind of just keeping everything sharp, right? With individual drills and some group and a little bit of teamwork, just to keep us sharp. But a lot of this time gets spent on, really that second string and beyond, right? I mean, these guys spend this week. This is essentially like a game week for them, right? Because they're going to be, battling and really focusing on a bunch of developmental stuff, right? On some of these younger guys, because now, as you you don't have to game plan for a team this upcoming week. We can spend a little bit more time. The coaches can spend a little bit more time focusing on some of the younger guys or the people that don't play as much and focus on, developing them and working on their skills and abilities. So, for this next part of half of the season, right, if it comes to an opportunity where they have to play, some more, right, have to get into some more snaps, right, they'll be ready to fill right in. So, yeah, for mainly this week is, again, people that typically are going to be playing, that play like 30, 40 snaps a game, right? They're not going to get that much work, but the people that are really under that are going to get a bunch of developmental work. They'll be in pads a few times, and then towards the end of the week, we'll have off, and then typically we come back on Saturday and practice and start getting ready for the team for the following week.
So you got to play in Columbus. You got to play at the Horseshoe early in your career. We were talking about it a little bit before we started recording today, and talked about that game. And right away, when you mentioned it, the Jake Doozy game where he had the big touchdown. It was the tight end game. You guys really came up with a great scheme in that one, putting together an offensive plan that you thought would work. You guys hung around against a very good Ohio State team and did it there. But for you personally, your dad played at Ohio State. You grew up in Ohio. I mean, it had to be just such a cool experience for you. You weren't recruited by the Buckeyes. Your brother was, but he ultimately decided to come and hang out with you for a couple of years. But, looking back upon that, just that experience, I've been to Columbus a couple of times for games. It's a great environment. It's as loud as any stadium that I've ever been in, bigger than the Big House. I thought louder, it might have been also where I've been sitting, but also louder than even Penn State. I've been down to an Alabama Tennessee game. That was a great environment too, but that place is loud. They're into it. And those fans, man, they are a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah, that's all really, really accurate. I mean, for starters, yeah, I mean, again, I only played there one time, but when I did play there, and obviously at that time I hadn't even had that crazy amount of experience of playing in a hostile environment, but like that place was crazy, crazy loud. Like it was already hard enough to hear, play in the in the huddle, and then let alone trying to listen to the snap or any audibles right made at the line of scrimmage, right? And but those are the type of games that you look for, right? I mean, that's part of the reason why a bunch of people want to go and play big time college football, right? Is to obviously obviously have the opportunities to play at a high level and play at the next level, but also to go into those environments and experience those type of games and try to get the opposing fans to be quiet a couple of times, right? That's fun stuff. It's going to be an exciting opportunity for the guys to get to play there, because I'm trying to think. I don't think this group hasn't even played there yet.
Nope.
So yeah, exactly. So this is going to be a fun trip for them, exciting trip for them. But yeah, their fans are hostile and rough, and they're gonna be yelling all types of stuff. When you're just chilling on your bench, right? Like their fans are gonna be yelling all types of insults and things, and all this stuff that comes with the territory of playing at an environment like Ohio State, right? So again, it's gonna be a fun time, and I'm hoping that we can put together a decent showing, because I'm gonna obviously hear it from my dad and the rest of my family. So
Right. Understand that. My future brother-in-law, he is an Ohio State grad, so yeah, I've already heard the chirping already starting here, and we have no comeback. That's the thing. We go back. The last time we saw the Buckeyes was 2017, and we've been able to hold 55-24 over their head for the last 5 years. And oh boy, the 55 might be right. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be on the other side this week. Well, we'll see though. The Iowa defense. Hopefully they can hold them down. You put a couple of plays together. Maybe it is an interception. You go back to that 2017 game, and Amari making the play right away, getting the pick six, and it just, the onslaught was on. Bosa got ejected for a targeting penalty. That changed the complexion of the game. And then Big Nate making plays, got guys draped on his leg, throwing touchdowns. That was a game plan. That was the best game plan Brian's ever come up with. And let's see, maybe with an extra week here, he's going to be able to come up with something and figure something out, because they're going to need it. That Ohio State team, my personal poll, I got him number one. I'm very impressed with what they did to Sparty last week. We saw, of course, Alabama struggle without having Bryce Young out there against Texas A&M. They were a play away from losing that football game. 2 weeks ago, we saw Georgia struggle. So Buckeyes are number one. Hey, let's upend them, at least in my personal poll. Hey, speaking of that, so talking about stadiums, you got to play in most every Big Ten stadium. We know Kinnick and everything that you hear from opposing players that come in. You hear the close proximity. You can see it as you're sitting there, just how close the benches are. What was the most difficult play, the loudest place, the one where the fans got on you most? What are a couple of the stadiums that jump out to you?
Great question. I would say probably the three toughest if I played in, and really no order, is really Penn State and Iowa State. Those stadiums, Iowa State's really surprisingly gets really, really loud there playing. And then Ohio State is in that conversation again. I've only played there once, but when I did play there, you couldn't hear anything at any point in time, during the game, right? It's that loud all the time, right? Those three, their fans stay up and at it the entire time. And if their team is making plays, right, at any point in time in the game, it's just it almost feels like a thing near an earthquake down there, right? I feel like it's just so loud, and it's hard to even just have regular communication, when you're on the field and things like that. So I would say that those three are pretty tough to play in. But there's some other stadiums that are pretty good too, like Minnesota. Whenever we play it there, right, they do a pretty decent job, especially if their team is halfway okay, right? Like they're gonna get pretty loud there. Same thing with Nebraska. They'll fill out that stadium and get pumped up and ready to go, right? Because obviously they've been selling out their stadium for forever now. So yeah, those places are all pretty fun to play in.
Well, it's a great environment. I got to get to Rutgers. I got to get to Maryland. Those are the two last I still have to cross off my list. And some trips are better than others. From a fan perspective, I'll put it this way. Some of my favorite places to go. I've always enjoyed Wisconsin. I have a great time there. The football's not always been very good for the Hawkeye side of things, but it's brethren that kind of think the same way. You can have some beers beforehand, have a good time. There's going to be a-hole fans wherever you go. By far, the worst that I've run into. I told you the story about Illinois last week and going in there. They got a barn on their campus. They're telling us to go back to the farm. And Minnesota fans, I just love needling them. I grew up, like I told you, in North Iowa. I got a lot of family that went to Minnesota, so I have a lot of connection there. And, we've dominated the series for so long. It's been fun to go back and forth with them. Nebraska fans, they're kind of weirdos. The stadium is odd just in comparison. You got that area where people can just walk around down there. It's just
Yeah.
so different than any other stadium. That's really, really goofy, but I've really enjoyed the experience there. Michigan State, oh boy, that fan base, they are fired up, and they're a different kind of group, certainly, with Sparty. And Penn State, I was there for when Adrian Claiborne blocked the punt. That
Oh
was an
yeah.
incredible moment on the night game, tailgating all day long, just raining on the whole day. It was just an awesome, awesome environment there. That was now, 11 years ago, boy, getting old, but so many great moments, so many great times. In
Mhm.
fact, that'll be a good off-season topic. We'll go a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into stadiums.
For sure, yeah. And I even forgot to mention Wisconsin. Wisconsin was weird though because like their student section is like empty for
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
entire game until like the fourth quarter, and then
Yeah.
if like the game's close, like they'll be up and it's like rocking then.
Yeah.
That stadium's a little bit odd, but I haven't
It's
got to
old.
never. Yeah, that's also another thing about it too, right? It's and their locker room was pretty small too.
Yeah.
Now I could go all day about other teams' locker rooms as well.
That'll be a good one. We'll hit that one. We'll hit that one. In fact, we might do that next week. Getting ready for the Buckeye game, we'll talk about that. It'll be a fun topic with the bye week upon us. But LeShun, one more thing. We're going to take our final break, and when we come back on the other side, I want to talk to you a little bit about schematically what Iowa can do this week in preparation for the Buckeyes. It's going to be a tall hill. Look, you're not going to be able to beat this team 17-12, right? You're going to have to score to win this game. What Iowa can do to give them some kind of hope, some kind of opportunity to pull off the win against the Buckeyes. That's as we continue here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. All right, LeShun, our partners at Nissan have worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting play from the Hawkeyes game or throughout history of alma mater. This week's thrilling moment for the Hawkeyes is, well, this is tough, LeShun, because we're in a whole lot of thrilling moments, and not to be flippant, but I kind of thought maybe when Riley Moss returned what we thought was a fumble recovery for a touchdown, that was probably the most thrilling moment of the game, something that didn't actually happen.
No. Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. I mean, like I was pretty excited when I like first saw it, and then they showed the replay, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, he's definitely down,
Uh,
right? So,
Absolutely.
um,
There's no coming back. There's no hope that, maybe no, there was none of that. It was just that deflating moment where his elbow's down. This one's over. That's where we are right now. Our thrilling moments here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast are things that didn't actually happen. That's what happens when your offense struggles. Hey, another one for real though. Quinn Schulte making that interception. Unfortunately, he was at the 1 yard line and had us backed up, but just an incredible play. He has played at such a high level. We'll give it to Quinn on one that actually stood up as he got the interception at the 1 yard line. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in an all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Available now at nissanusa.com. As we finish up here, LeShun, I want to talk to you about what Iowa can do. Game planning here, extra week to prepare. You can throw some more wrinkles in there. Obviously, hope for more development out of the offensive line and everything we've talked about. But schematically, what are you doing here? Ohio State, they are an elite level offense. That defense, though, even with Jim Knowles, has shown at least a few cracks this season. They're better than they were a year ago, certainly, but this is not an elite level defense. So, what are you doing? What are you coming up with game plan wise for the Hawkeyes to be able to get a couple of drives, to get a big hitter, whatever it may be? What do you think would still work with the way this offense is currently constructed?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I mean, it's a very, very good question. And honestly, like I really don't think it matters kind of what we scheme up and come up with if our offensive we can't block and protect. Like it's really not going to matter, right? What we come up with, schematically, because like if we can't, create any type of push up front in the run game and we can't pass protect, like it's not going to matter, right? We could have, Andy Reid back there calling plays and it wouldn't matter for us, right? Like, so that's where everything's really going to have to start, right? And again, these guys, the line, I mean, they're getting more experience, but it feels like they're not really taking the leap that we were kind of expecting from them, right? So hopefully that this week that they have, they can finally take a breather. We'll look back at all the tape from really over the past 6 weeks and really kind of figure out, okay, these are where we have to improve. These are things that we have to get better at. But once we kind of hopefully figure that out and we get the lineman at least in a spot where we can protect and we can create a little bit of movement, then I think it's going to be, honestly, we're gonna have to open up the playbook a little bit, right? We're gonna have to push the ball a little bit downfield, to sustain drives. We're gonna have to do it early in a drive, right? Like we're gonna have to do it on 1st and 10, right? We're not just gonna be able to run the ball, and then try to pass on 3rd down, right? It's not gonna work, right? And then we can't just pass it on 1st down, get patient, and then we'll try to run the ball on 2nd down, right? And then still be stuck in the 3rd and long, right? Like it's not going to work, right? We're going to have to push the ball and create some explosive plays. I mean, Notre Dame was able to keep the game somewhat close against Ohio State, right? And a big part of that was they created some explosive plays. I think they created several within the pass game. I want to say they had like 5 plays of over 20 yards in the passing game, right? And that's going to be big for the Hawks to be able to do that, right? Because if it gets to a point where we're just stuck in 3rd and medium, 3rd to long situations, I mean, obviously their front is just going to, the talent that they have up front is obviously just going to try to tee off on our offensive line, and it's going to be in a very, very tough situation there. And then obviously, like defense, I mean, they've been playing well, right? But there are times where again, guys have made plays on them, both in the run game and in the pass game. So I think the biggest thing for them is, again, it's going to be trying to limit those explosive plays as much as possible, right? Those plays that go for 20 plus, because obviously we know Ohio State, they can create them basically in an instant at any point in time. So limiting those as much as possible is going to be huge for the defense. But yeah, offensively, I mean, if we can't create any explosive plays in the pass game with some kind of success, right, and get Ohio State defense on their heels early on, right, we're going to find ourselves behind very, very early, and that's going to be a whole other issue at that point. So yeah, it's going to be, again, Coach Brian's going to have to come up with some stuff that's going to possibly stretch the defense a little bit early on, because obviously we haven't been able to run the football very, very much, right? Obviously, Caleb and LeShun have both had success running the football at times, right, when they've been able to create, when they get a little bit of space. But we obviously know that that's not going to be there all day. And if we're going to keep the game close and competitive, into the 4th quarter to give ourselves a chance to win, we're going to have to be able to pass the football and, really push that ball downfield. So hopefully this week we can get a bunch of our guys back and, healthy to a point where, and get, guys that haven't played as much, up to speed. So when we get out there, that Saturday, that we'll be able to create those plays and, put out a good showing.
Well, the good news is I want a bye week this week. It is an incredible weekend of college football, so we don't have to worry about watching that Hawkeye offense for a week. They can figure some things out. But this week we got Penn State at Michigan. How great that game's going to be. Of course, Alabama goes to Tennessee. That the game day is going to be there. Oklahoma State against TCU in the Big 12. I think that game's going to be really good. USC Utah. I mean, there's a lot of good football this weekend, and we don't have to watch the Iowa offense at least for another week. Hey, LeShun, enjoy the bye week. We will talk to you again next week. And when we do, we'll, of course, go a little deeper into the matchup against the Buckeyes, but also with it, we'll go back and we will go back to your playing career and take a look at the Big Ten stadiums and what you had to deal with in those locker rooms, because I can only imagine some of the stories in some of those buildings. Looking forward to it. We'll talk again next week, LeShun.
Sounds good. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.